Hi everyone, this is Paul, and this is just a quick bonus episode of Legendary Adventures, the Legend of Zelda playthrough podcast, and this episode is not necessarily about the Legend of Zelda. I actually wanted to talk about Donkey Kong Bananza. It just came out on Switch 2 this week on Thursday, and I bought it, and I've been playing it a little bit, and it is reminding me just a little of the Legend of Zelda, specifically of Tears of the Kingdom and a little bit Breath of the Wild. I'm probably not the first one to point this out, but early on in Donkey Kong Bananza, you do have to dive down a hole to a lower level on the underground world that the game takes place in. And as you dive down, there's a shot of Donkey Kong falling from above over what looks like an island that is made of a light-colored stone with leaves and grass that are of a yellow color, and it is very much reminiscent of the Great Sky Island in Tears of the Kingdom. That was the first thing that got me thinking about this environment, this lagoon environment that is kind of the first true sub-layer after the tutorial level, is very much, in terms of color at least, like the Great Sky Island. In terms of gameplay, not so much, but there are some gameplay elements that I think are part of the broader game that are also reminding me of Zelda. Now, I should preface this with the fact that this game was developed by the same people who made Super Mario Odyssey, and there's also a very clear influence from Super Mario Odyssey on this game. If you've played Super Mario Odyssey, there are plenty of things in Donkey Kong Bananza that will seem familiar. The bananas are very much like the moons in Mario Odyssey, and a lot of the challenges and stuff that you encounter are very much like Mario Odyssey. And I should also point out that Mario and Zelda, of course, are related series, in that Mario and The Legend of Zelda were both co-created by Shigeru Miyamoto. Miyamoto created the Mario character himself. He co-created The Legend of Zelda with Takashi Tezuka. And he and Tezuka made the Super Mario games, at least the initial ones. Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers 2, Mario's 3, Mario World, were all Miyamoto-Tezuka collaborations. And those games are really the basis of what the Mario series is today. They also worked together on Super Mario 64, which has kind of been the basis of the 3D Mario games. And intermixed between all of these has been Yoshiaki Koizumi, who of course started his career working on The Legend of Zelda with A Link to the Past, and he continued on with the Zelda team for a while, working on Link's Awakening, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask. And in between some of those games, he also helped make Mario 64, and following Majora's Mask, he went on to direct Super Mario Sunshine. He was also later made the head of the Mario team and of a Nintendo studio that was set up in Tokyo, that in turn developed Super Mario Odyssey and Super Mario Bowser's Fury. I bring all of this up because we can see that for a while now, Zelda and Mario have kind of been moving closer together, at least if you consider the 3D Mario games and the Zelda games. Super Mario 64 was noted at the time of its release that being somewhat Zelda-like, and Miyamoto admitted to sharing ideas between both games while he was in charge of those games and was more involved in the actual design of those games. Mario 64 was considered by its developers to be open world. I've mentioned this before. I don't personally consider it to be such because there are still distinct stages that need to be selected from a menu, even if there is sort of an open hub area. And the stage itself, after you select it, is fairly open to explore. And Mario Odyssey is very much the same way. It's a lot bigger than Mario 64, but you select a stage from a menu, and then you go to that stage, and then that stage is open and able to be explored. But the exploration is much more involved than it was in Mario 64. There's a lot more to find. There's all the different moons and the different challenges to take on, and there is sort of a bit of a vibe that is shared between those 3D Mario games and the Zelda games. And it was noted, if I'm recalling correctly, that at the time of their release, Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey were noted to be on a similar wavelength to each other. There were some things that Nintendo was doing kind of as a whole at that time that were on a similar wavelength. And I feel the same thing is happening here with Donkey Kong Bananza. I cannot say for sure if Donkey Kong Bananza's developers directly looked at Zelda and decided to copy it, though I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. Breath of the Wild has outsold Mario Odyssey. It is the first time in both those series' history, at least to my knowledge, that a Zelda game has managed to outsell the primary lead Mario game on that system's platform. Obviously, spin-off titles like Mario Kart are different. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is one of the best-selling games of all time. So Breath of the Wild doesn't really compete to that. But in terms of Mario platforming games, the games that are considered kind of the mainline Mario games, for the first time, Zelda is outselling it, and Tears of the Kingdom isn't that far behind it. All that's to set up some of my feelings on the Zelda-ness and the Tears of the Kingdom-ness of this game, and maybe it's a stretch, I don't know. You can tell me what you think. But these are things that stuck out to me as I was playing. Donkey Kong Bonanza is obviously in more of an open-world style. I think it may ultimately be separated into stages a bit with the different layers. I don't know exactly how they all connect. I'm not that deep into the game yet. We'll see if I ultimately feel that it is a full open-world game or just kind of a semi-open-world game like Mario Odyssey and Mario 64. But there's open-world elements to it. You explore through the area. There are golden bananas that are the equivalent of Mario Odyssey's moons. There are fossils to collect that are sort of the equivalent of Mario Odyssey's purple coins. But in terms of Zelda stuff, again, the visuals were very much reminding me of Zelda. The bonus rooms are accessed by finding these little ruins, little half domes that are sitting on the ground in some cases. In some cases, there's a wall with like a triangle on it, and you have to break through those in order to enter the bonus round. And when I found that first half dome one, my very first thought was, this looks kind of like a shrine from Breath of the Wild. And I pounded through it, and then a bonus round started. Now, bonus rounds are not new at all to Donkey Kong. They're common in various games, so this isn't like a unique concept to Zelda. That's not what I am saying. But I am saying that the entrance visually reminded me of a shrine, and that I have noticed, at least so far, it seems that the bonus rounds are each individually named, like a shrine. In the past, Donkey Kong bonus rounds, if they were named at all, just had a generic name that told you which type of bonus round it was. Bash the baddies, collect the coin, etc. Here we have bonus rounds that seem to be named, a thorn-covered path. Sometimes it might be just more generic. There's some that are just named after an enemy and that have a number after them, and you have to defeat that number of enemies. So I can't say for sure, I'm just saying that it's reminding me of it. Likewise, I've encountered some octopus enemies. As I was playing last night, my wife and kids were in the room, and I had mentioned out loud at how this game was reminding me of Tears of the Kingdom, with the coloration of it and the look of it, and how it seemed like the Sky Island, and how the dive down had reminded me of that first dive in Tears of the Kingdom down to the Great Sky Island. And suddenly my wife and kids were all in on it too. They were noticing things that they felt like were very Zelda-like. And one of those things were these octopus enemies, which they felt like resembled the Octoroks from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, although they're colored kind of like the Chews. There's red, there's blue, there's green. And they hop and roll at Donkey Kong in order to get them. And they'll even do kind of a little stop and shake and hop, similar to a Chew. They're not necessarily the same thing. It was just reminding me of it. It was visually similar, it felt like. And my wife started to notice other things in like the coloration of the game that she felt were reminiscent of things that you might see in Zelda titles. She felt like the way that missions were emphasized, or like the completion of a puzzle or whatever was emphasized in the camera movements, felt Zelda-like to her. I also found a bed, and when I slept in this bed, which sleeping in beds is something that has become a part of the Zelda series since Hidemaru Fujibayashi became the director of the series, the games that he's directed have featured an ability to sleep in a bed in order to restore hearts, and I found a bed here in Donkey Kong Bonanza, and I slept in it. And after sleeping in it, Donkey Kong received a bonus heart. A temporary bonus heart was added on, and it was yellow. Much in the same way that in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, you can add bonus hearts to Link's health, and those bonus hearts will be yellow when they are added. Likewise, Donkey Kong can get new outfits. Now, this is something that was in Super Mario Odyssey. Mario was able to get outfits and hats, and there was a special currency in each world that he would use to buy some of that stuff. That is the same, it seems, in Donkey Kong Bonanza. There are fossils to find in the world that are the currency of that world, each sub-layer, I should be saying. And you can turn those in and you can get different outfits for Donkey Kong. You can change his fur color, you can get new ties, you can get new pants. And the way that you change between these outfits is also similar to Mario Odyssey, in that you access a closet and then you pick what you want to wear. What struck me as being more Zelda-like in this, though, is that the outfits now provide buffs to Donkey Kong. So like I bought a pair of red breeches, which when put on, increased Donkey Kong's swim speed. There was also a tie that was available that was going to increase the likelihood that Donkey Kong would find treasure chests buried in the ground. And yeah, treasure chests being in here seems Zelda-like as well. And the fact that there are 3 different slots for outfit equipments, there's a fur, there's a tie, there's a pants slot, and that each of those slots you can equip with something, and that equipment will have buffs, reminded me of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom's equipment setup, in that there's hats, shirts, and pants, and that those items have buffs in between them and will buff Link's abilities. I should also mention I picked up an apple juice item at one point, and it explained that it would revive Donkey Kong upon death if he lost all his hearts, which instantly made me think, of course, fairy. This is, of course, still very different. There's a lot of Mario Odyssey in here. There's a lot of Donkey Kong in here, finding balloons. They're not extra lives anymore, but they'll save you from a fall, which some balloons have done in the past in previous Donkey Kong games. So these are just little things that I'm noticing. It's nothing huge. This is still very much distinct and different from a Zelda game. I'm not saying that if you love Zelda games, you're going to love Donkey Kong Bonanza and you should try that. No, this was something that I was noticing, and I was encouraged to maybe express that and see what other people thought as well. So I decided I'd go ahead and do that, put together this quick little bonus episode, just talk a bit about how Donkey Kong Bonanza is reminding me a little bit of Zelda. Even though it's its own distinct thing, it is separate. It plays similarly to Mario Odyssey. It plays similarly to Zelda in aspects, but it is also still very much Donkey Kong. The destruction physics and all that stuff feel very Donkey Kong, even though I was looking at a developer interview just before recording this to kind of get an idea, and it seems like that idea actually originated with Mario Odyssey, which is interesting, but that they developed it further and they've wound up with something that feels Donkey Kong. They've also wound up with something that, by extension, also feels a little bit like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Zelda, in that the developers in that interview specifically mentioned that in creating these destructible environments, they're acknowledging that some people may be able to bypass their intended way to pick up items or find bananas or whatever, and that if they do so, well, that's still part of the experience. People will find another way around. They can't ultimately control how people are going to explore through this place completely, because of the design decisions that they're making here and the way that they're trying to make it so open and destructible. Just a little bit more that feels like more of that Zelda DNA that is seeping into this Donkey Kong game. So those are my thoughts on Donkey Kong Bonanza and just things that are reminding me about Zelda. If you've played it, I wonder if you've had these same thoughts, and if not, do you think I'm just off my rocker? Let me know. I'm Paul Riley, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.